This is a dopamine hit of a story with a jaw-dropping 9.9999 rating. So, get comfy, yes, even if you're scrolling on the toilet, and take your time to savor it. Taylor Swift says, hit that follow, drop a like, and boom, you're $5 million richer before you even step outside. Here we go. The year I was at my absolute lowest, I took $500,000 to pretend to be my brother and take care of his blind fiancé. The day she regained her sight, I disappeared without a word. The next time we met was at a high-profile business interview. I was a nobody, just an intern reporter. She was back to her true self, the eldest daughter of the Taylor family, now holding the reins of the entire clan. The host asked, during your illness, I heard it was all thanks to your fiancé, Mr. Steven, never leaving your side. The two of you must be close to tying the knot? Her lips curled into the faintest smile. She lifted her hand, showing off a ring. Yes, we're getting engaged. But her gaze slid, intentionally or not, past the camera lens, and landed on me, tucked away in the corner. Before the event started, the room was buzzing. That's the Taylor family's heiress. Full control over everything now. They say 5 years ago she went blind and even got kicked out of the family. If it weren't for her fiancé taking care of her, she wouldn't have survived. I sat off to the side, forcing a polite smile, my nails digging into my palm. Then my senior, brother Wright, turned to me. Hey, grab me some water, will you? I had just reached the water dispenser when the main doors burst open. A familiar silhouette stepped into view, and my mind went blank. 3 years had turned Taylor Swift's world upside down. The once frail, thin girl had grown into a tall, poised woman. Her features were sharper now. Her eyes, once hazy and soft, were like cold steel. Sunlight, look this way, she said faintly. Her gaze swept over me like I was a stranger, not even pausing. Surrounded by bodyguards, she walked onto the stage. As she passed, a cool, woody scent trailed behind her. I stood frozen for a few seconds before it hit me. Those 2 years I spent by her side were her darkest days. She'd been cast out of the Taylor family, blinded in a car accident. Of course she wouldn't know what I looked like. Maybe that was for the best. When I came back with the water, the interview was already in full swing. Taylor Swift sat on stage, fingers laced beneath her chin, answering business questions with effortless composure. Suddenly, the side door opened and Steven Gerrard walked in. Sorry, Swift, something came up with the crew. I'm late. He wore an immaculate champagne-colored suit and took the seat beside her. The entire room went quiet for a beat, then the air turned warm and electric. Brother Wright glanced at me over his cup. Hey, don't you think you kinda look like Mr. Steven? I pressed my lips into a smile. He's a movie star. You flatter me. But in my head, I thought, of course we look alike. We're brothers. The host's voice rang out again. During your illness, it was thanks to Mr. Steven's unwavering care that you recovered. The two of you must be close to marriage? I looked at Taylor Swift. She smiled faintly, lifted her left hand, and revealed a simple silver ring. It was the same one I'd bought years ago while working a part-time job, just to make her smile. On the hand of the Taylor family heiress, it looked almost absurdly out of place. But she didn't seem to notice. Her fingertips brushed it lightly. Yes, she said, we're getting engaged. And once again, her eyes flickered toward me in the corner, just for a second. It only lasted a few seconds before the mic was handed back to Steven Gerrard. Mr. Steven, we hear you've been filming a new project recently. You rarely cast newcomers. Does President Taylor have something to do with that? He smiled and admitted, of course, I have confidence in my own skills. But I won't deny Swift has done a lot for me, and I believe I've more than earned her favor. His calm, open demeanor only won him more admiration from the crowd. Someone asked, could you share a story about how you and President Taylor supported each other during your toughest times? Steven Gerrard's smile froze mid-air. The silence that followed felt unnatural, as if time itself slowed. Then Taylor Swift let out a soft laugh, took the microphone, and said, there's nothing much to tell. The memories between him and me are enough for only the two of us to know. My throat tightened, eyes stinging. I gripped my pen and lowered my head, hoping no one noticed. All it took was closing my eyes, and I was back there. The Taylor Swift of my teenage years, headstrong and rebellious, had offended plenty of people. After she fell from grace, trouble came knocking, literally. I tried to protect her, but ended up shoved down the stairs, my body slamming into the ground, bleeding everywhere. The sight scared them off, and they ran. I forced myself to stand, pretending nothing had happened. Come on, let's go home. But Taylor Swift suddenly grabbed my hand. You're hurt. We're going to the hospital. I'm not. I can smell the blood. Her voice rose without warning, and tears slipped from those cloudy eyes, like stars dimmed under dust. She clung to me tightly, but the name she called wasn't mine. It was my brother's, Steven Gerrard. Once you're healed, I'll give you the grandest wedding. After the interview ended, the sky had turned gray. Outside the venue, Brother Wright patted his pockets inside. Hey, I left my memory card inside. Go grab it for me. I jogged over the damp pavement, reached the elevator just as the numbers dropped to 1. The doors slid open, and I froze. Inside stood Steven Gerrard, tilting his head toward Taylor Swift as he chatted about trivial things from the film set. She listened patiently, expression cool, posture elegant yet distant. When he spotted me, Steven Gerrard's face darkened instantly. Sorry, I muttered, ready to take the stairs instead. But Taylor Swift's voice came from behind me. Stop. I hesitated. Aren't you taking the elevator? Go ahead. Slowly, I turned back and deliberately lowered my voice. Thank you, President Taylor. She didn't move aside, just stood there, eyes locked on me. You were one of the reporters at today's interview. Why didn't I hear you ask anything? I lowered my gaze. I just graduated and returned to the country. President Taylor, I'm only an intern. I'm not allowed to ask questions. I see, she replied lightly, though I couldn't tell what she was thinking. Steven Gerrard shot me a sharp glare. Let's go. Swift still has to meet director Luis tonight. Finally, she looked away. I rode the elevator up alone, lost in thought. After my parents divorced, my father married into the Steven family, bringing Steven Gerrard into my life. Though we never met, 5 years ago, he suddenly came to me. I'll give you $500,000. Take my place and look after someone for me. Back then, my mother had just passed away from illness. We were drowning in debt. I had no other choice. I agreed to his request. It wasn't until we met that I realized the person he wanted me to take care of was none other than the Taylor family's eldest daughter, Taylor Swift. His fiancée, the same woman who, not long after their engagement, was in an accident that left her blind. A discarded heiress. Who would want to take care of her? Her face was full of disdain. If it weren't for the bad publicity, I'd have called off the engagement ages ago. At the time, Steven Gerrard was just starting out in the industry, landing a decent role and riding the momentum. He didn't want to be labeled cold and heartless, so he dumped the burden on me. Taylor Swift had lived 18 years of smooth sailing before everything came crashing down. Her temper turned for the worse. In those early days, she lashed out at me constantly, her words sharp and cold. I took the money, did my job, and never talked back until that night. I'd gone to the cemetery to visit my mother and came back later than usual. She started again, venting her frustration. Steven Gerrard, stop putting on an act in front of me. Don't think I don't know you secretly despise me. You're just, she never finished the sentence, because I suddenly leaned down and kissed her. It was my first kiss, clumsy, unskilled, and laced with a trace of anger. More like a predator sinking its teeth into prey. She went utterly still, the tips of her ears turning crimson. I bit her lip lightly, almost out of spite, before pulling back just enough to breathe against her. Do you feel it now? Still think I despise you? Later, I went downstairs to hand Brother Wright the memory card. Hey, you're pretty efficient. There's a dinner tonight. I'll take you to meet some people. In journalism, connections are everything. I thanked him right away. But when we arrived, a familiar black Rolls-Royce was parked outside, and I froze. Is President Taylor here tonight? Brother Wright gave me a sly wink. Of course. That's exactly where we're going. Don't underestimate your brother Wright's network. It was too late to back out. I could only grit my teeth and follow him inside. Fortunately, the private dining room was large. We junior reporters weren't seated anywhere near Taylor Swift's table. Brother Wright introduced me to several industry seniors. As the rookie, I couldn't avoid the rounds of toasts. By the end, my head was spinning. I barely managed a quick, "Sorry," before bolting to the restroom. After throwing up until the world tilted, I rinsed my mouth, splashed cold water on my face, and stepped out into the dimly lit hallway. That's when I saw her. Alone, familiar silhouette by the window, bathed in shadow. My heartbeat thudded painfully. I took one step forward. James Bowling. Her voice, low, deliberate, seemed to carry a tangle of emotions I couldn't untangle. My feet froze. I swallowed hard as her footsteps drew closer. Slow and steady. Instinctively, I shut my eyes. Her familiar scent drifted nearer, inch by inch. When I opened my eyes, I was caught in the depth of hers, dark as the sea. "How do you know my name?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. She just looked at me for a long moment, then straightened her posture. "Your senior had you toasting every table. Everyone in that private room knows your name." Thinking of Brother Wright's booming voice, my face warmed. "Sorry, my senior's good to us newcomers, maybe a little too enthusiastic. If we've disturbed your evening, President Taylor, I apologize." I hurried to explain, worried she might take offense and somehow involve Brother Wright. But Taylor Swift said nothing more. In the soft golden light, she narrowed her eyes slightly, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "You're still an intern, right? Want to try for a new job opportunity?" By the time I headed back, my head was still spinning a little. "Sorry, Brother Wright," I murmured. "I've had stomach surgery before, can't really handle much." He frowned, about to say something. Then his gaze dropped. His eyes widened in disbelief at the sight of the gold-embossed card in my hand. Is that President Taylor's personal business card?" I nodded, thinking back to what had just happened. My mind still couldn't process it. This was the kind of card people joked was worth its weight in gold. A direct line to Taylor Swift herself. But why? Why would she give me, an unknown rookie reporter, something so rare? Brother Wright's lips curved into the faintest smirk. "Maybe she just likes the look of you." That actually sounded like a very Taylor Swift kind of reason. In the 2 years I'd taken care of her, we'd grown more familiar. She'd show me flashes of that rebellious temper, almost like a cat unsheathing its claws just for fun. Snapping out of my thoughts, I made up some random excuse to brush off Brother Wright. The next day at the office, my boss called me in. "Hey," he said warmly. "The trending emotional reality show? You'll be joining as a special guest observer. Get ready." It wasn't until the production schedule came in that I realized the next episode's feature guests were Steven Gerrard and Taylor Swift. After that interview aired, their engagement announcement blew up online, trending at the top. Through the lows together, reunited at the peak, a love story for the ages. Rumor had it, the Steven family's company had been on life support until Taylor Group's powerful backing revived it. I turned off the comment section. Host Justin Bieber was going over the script while making small talk with me. If we could dig up the real story of those 2 years between President Taylor and her fiancé, the ratings would skyrocket. I tightened my grip on my pen. Those 2 years, every detail, I knew better than anyone. But I couldn't say a word. Steven Gerrard, with the Taylor family's resources behind him, was now a top-tier celebrity. As the live stream kicked off, millions poured into the chat room. Under the spotlight, Justin Bieber smiled. "I hear wedding bells are on the horizon. Care to share your journey together?" Steven Gerrard tilted his head toward her, smiling gently. "To me, Swift has always been the one I love most." His gaze lingered on her, warm enough to melt steel. But Taylor Swift just laughed softly. "Steven, Back when I first went blind. You couldn't stand me. Have you forgotten? He froze for a split second, then glanced my way. Something dark flickered in his eyes. But with the cameras rolling, all he could do was keep smiling. I barely remember. Guess as our love grew stronger, I only kept the sweet parts. I glanced at the scrolling comments. So sweet. Couple goals. I set down my script, raised my mic, and addressed her. Sounds like the two of you remember things differently. Could there be more to the story? Maybe share how you worked through those differences. I thought she'd dodged the question. But after a pause, she spoke. When my eyesight first failed, I was broken, angry at the whole world. He was out early, back late, and in between. He still had to take care of me. One day, overwhelmed and scatterbrained, he left fish simmering on the stove, went downstairs for salt, and forgot to turn off the burner. By the time he came back, the kitchen was already on fire. Her voice caught, like something was lodged in her throat. Her eyes went distant, lost in that memory. It was like I could still feel it. The searing heat from that evening's flames, lingering in the air. I dragged Taylor Swift out of the room, fisted his collar, and slapped him hard across the face. My voice shook as I snarled, "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" But instead of snapping back like before, she stayed silent for a long, long time. Then, hoarse and barely audible, she asked, "Wouldn't it be better if I were dead? Wouldn't that be a relief for you?" And in that moment, it hit me. The once untouchable heiress of the Taylor family was now just a deflated little stray, all hiss and no claws. I shoved her back into the room, panting. The walls were blackened from the fire's bite. One by one, I undid her buttons. "I didn't get dinner," I murmured. "Pay me back." She seemed to realize what I meant, but my kiss crushed the words before they could leave her lips. "Taylor Swift," I whispered, "I never thought you were a burden." That night, the world tilted on its axis, and there was only the two of us. Now, here she was, bringing it all up again, while sitting beside her oh-so-intimate fiancé, Steven Gerrard. The whole world thought this was their private memory. Yet from Taylor Swift drifted a scent, familiar, yet strange, wrapping around me without a sound. Only, it no longer belonged to me. She paused, then said, "I'll always remember the moonlight that night. It was so bright, bright enough to reveal everything. I couldn't see, but he talked to me the whole night." My hands tightened around my notes, my head ducking quickly as my eyes stung. Because of my last-minute questions, things came out. Things no one had ever heard before. The interview was a roaring success. By the end of the show, the livestream audience had blown past 10 million. For the first time, someone had pried open the guarded past of the Taylor family's leader. Everyone was buzzing. Backstage, Justin Bieber clapped me on the shoulder. Now that's real journalism. Those off-the-cuff questions? Sharp enough no one could dodge them. But when I turned, Taylor Swift and Steven Gerrard were walking over. Her gaze swept over me, cool and unreadable. "Were those questions yours?" I nodded. Steven Gerrard smiled, sweet, but with knives behind it. "Reporter James, you do know how to hit where it hurts. But let me remind you, basic professional ethics still apply." I didn't answer, just looked back at Taylor Swift. Her expression was sharp as glass. "Reporter James is very capable," she said evenly. "From now on, you'll be our direct contact for all media matters." Steven Gerrard's eyes were flat, but the fear and hatred bleeding through were impossible to miss. Later, in a quiet corner, he blocked my path. His gaze was guarded, laced with disgust. "James Bowling, you really are greedy. You already took money from me back then. What are you doing here now?" I met his eyes, calm. "I graduated, came back to work. That's all. You think I'm stupid?" He suddenly lost it. "Quit, right now, or I'll make sure you don't have a single good day left." I ignored him and walked away. And he kept his word. Suddenly, I was running into roadblocks everywhere. Jobs that should have been mine were snatched away at the last second. Before the day ended, my boss called me in. "Next month, there's a big annual development conference. You'll be hosting. I blinked. He added, President Taylor specifically asked for you. After work, parked along the curb opposite our office, was a very familiar Rolls-Royce. The window rolled down, and there was Taylor Swift's cool, detached face. Reporter James, since you're so curious about my past, why not ask me directly? I lowered my head. I had no intention of prying into President Taylor's private life. It was just work. I gave you my personal card. You can use it to ask me anything. I pressed my lips together. There was no need, because right then, it hit me. It had been 3 years. She was now the all-powerful Taylor Swift, no longer that short-tempered little wildcat. Maybe, to her, that part of the past was nothing but a shameful scar. Something better left buried. I turned to leave, but Taylor Swift's voice cut through the air. Stop. The car door swung open. One long stride, and she was standing right in front of me. Mr. James, let's talk. Her lips curved, but her eyes held a trace of helplessness. Over the next couple of weeks, she sought me out twice more, going over the key announcements for the upcoming press conference. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, she handed me a folder. You can announce this at the conference. Consider it an exclusive scoop you dug up. I paused, then took it with a quiet thanks. When Wright GE heard about it, he kept nudging me. Seems like President Taylor has a soft spot for you. Why not hint to her about Steven Gerrard sabotaging you? I just kept editing my host script and smiled. No need. The day of the conference, the venue was packed, shoulder to shoulder. The center seat, where Taylor Swift was supposed to be, was empty. Under the flash of countless spotlights, I was announcing Taylor Group's upcoming collaborations, when a strange reporter suddenly stood up, accusing me in front of everyone. This is classified info. Where did you steal it from? My face iced over. My work with Taylor Group is entirely above board. His voice rose, sharp and vicious. A woman who spreads her legs to climb the ladder. You have the nerve to talk about professionalism? He slammed the words down like a gavel. I have proof. And then, someone walked onto the stage. Steven Gerrard. He looked at me and sighed softly, like he pitied me. James Bowling, you're the kind of small-time reporter who won't cry until you see the coffin. Behind us, the big screen flickered. The presentation vanished, replaced by explicit photos, images of me knocking on a hotel room door in the middle of the night. Security footage of me entering a room with a superior. A repeat offender, he declared. As the crowd erupted in shock, the main doors burst open. In swept Taylor Swift, draped in a gown that turned every head. Her gaze sliced across the room, brushed over me without pause. My stomach sank. The spotlight burned down on me, like some public execution. The audience's whispers were knives. A disgrace to journalism. Blacklist him. I didn't look at anyone. I just kept my eyes on Taylor Swift. She turned to Steven Gerrard. What did you just say? He lowered his voice. Swift, he tricked you. He pretended to be a reporter to get close, just to steal confidential documents. Even this hosting gig? He slept his way into it. Taylor Swift was silent for a long moment, then looked at me. Do you have anything to say? From Steven Gerrard's eyes, I saw the hate, the satisfaction, and suddenly, it all felt absurd. He and I, only 2 years apart. Half-brothers, same mother, different fathers. After mom died, we should have been the only family each other had left in the world. I let a bitter smile curl at my lips, tightened my grip on the mic, and said, President Taylor, your fiancé is making wild accusations, deliberately spreading lies. If you choose to turn a blind eye because you love him, I'll make sure this goes in my news coverage today. And if a decision maker who can't tell truth from lies is running these projects, then maybe they're not worth trusting. Whether she was the rebellious heiress of the past, or the ruthless ruler of Taylor Group now. When she heard such a bold, open threat, anyone else would have blown up. But under the harsh stage lights, he simply walked toward me, step by steady step, until we were standing on the same level, a measured distance between us. His voice was quiet. James Bowling, And just like that, a sharp ache swelled in my chest. I turned my head away and said, slowly, word for word, every accusation you've just heard is a lie. President Taylor and I, Mr. Stephen's fiancé, have only ever interacted professionally. Nothing more. No contact. I didn't even finish before Taylor Swift's voice cut me off. You gave me a ring? And you don't plan on taking responsibility for me? I snapped my head toward her. She raised her left hand. And there it was. A plain, unremarkable silver band on her ring finger. Cheap material. Average craftsmanship. But under the lights, its shine was dazzling. Because she had cared for it so meticulously. And in an instant, that ring yanked me straight back to 4 years ago. It had been her 19th birthday. For 18 years before that, every birthday of hers had been a grand spectacle. Luxury, champagne, glittering crowds. But that year, she had no one but me. I'd been buried in rewriting my thesis. But I still picked up a part-time job for 2 days straight. Just to scrape together a little over $200. Enough for a pair of cheap matching rings. When I slipped it onto her hand, her ears turned red even though she couldn't see it. A ring I picked up off the street. Miss Taylor, don't look down on it. Don't call me that. She cradled the ring carefully in her palms. Even if you did pick it up, I like it, because it's from you. And she meant it, even in our most reckless, passionate moments. She never took that ring off. The memory faded, and Taylor Swift was already closing the gap between us. Say something, James Bowling. There's nothing to say. My voice was low, my grip tight on the mic. President Taylor, you've got the wrong person. Isn't that your fiancé Stephen's token of love? She gave a strange little laugh. I never said where this ring came from. Funny how you seem to know so well. By then she was standing just inches from me. Too close to dodge. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Wait, so the one who helped her through her lowest days was this reporter? Then what's Stephen Gerrard's deal? Now that you mention it, they do look alike. Stephen Gerrard's eyes burned with hatred, but his tone softened as he tried to coax her. Swift, don't let him fool you. He's a liar, always has been. He's even got a record. I closed my eyes for a second, pushing down the surge of emotions clawing their way up. When I opened them again, my gaze on her was calm, flat. Yes, I gave it to you. Back then, I pretended to be Stephen Gerrard for 2 years. For money. When I'd gotten enough, I left. I've already forgotten those days. From the start, you thought that man was Stephen Gerrard. You're engaged to him now. So what's the point of correcting you? I couldn't go on. The words stuck in my throat. I swallowed them down, set the mic aside, and turned to leave. But in that moment, her hand caught my wrist. That familiar burning warmth shot through my skin. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. You once said, as long as I wore the ring you gave me, no matter where I was, you'd recognize me instantly. Does that still count? Something inside me shook violently. I lowered my eyes, gently pried her fingers from mine, and stepped back. When I looked up again, my face was a mask. I forgot. Truth is, I lied. Those years I spent studying abroad, I kept thinking about Taylor Swift. Winter of her 19th year. Just before she was to return to the Taylor family. We were at the peak of our whirlwind romance. Northern winters were bone dry. So dry that every kiss between us sparked with tiny shocks of static. Sharp, fleeting pinpricks against the skin. I'd thought about telling her the truth more than once. So many moments, when her lips brushed my ear, and she whispered in that raspy, trembling voice, Stephen Gerrard, don't leave me. And every time, I was reminded of the ugly truth. From the very beginning, I'd approach her with a secret I could never say out loud. She hated liars more than anything. If she ever knew who I really was, would she hate me so much she'd never forgive me? On the eve of her 20th birthday, the Taylor family patriarch fell gravely ill. And in that moment of crisis, the truth of what happened all those years ago came out. Taylor Swift had been set up from the start. Even the car accident had been staged. The old man sent someone to contact Stephen Gerrard and bring her home. When Steven showed up at my door, he was already a famous actor. Chin lifted, eyes dripping with arrogance. Now that the Taylor family wants her back, you're not still dreaming about becoming somebody, are you? To them, to her, I'm the only one who matters. From day one, you were just a knockoff. He pulled out a check, slapped it against my chest. Another $500,000. Stop chasing fantasies. I looked up at him, eyes steady, voice sharp. Steven Gerrard, my mother is your mother too. His laugh was low, mocking. Your mother? She's nothing. Just a prostitute. The sunset bled into the room, and something in me snapped. I grabbed him by the collar and landed 2 hard punches square in his face. His shouts brought people rushing in. They twisted my arms behind my back and forced me to the ground. He stood over me, perfect suit, perfect face, perfect contempt. Take the money, go abroad, stay gone, or I'll have her scandals carved into her tombstone. He left. The check fluttered to the floor like a scrap of trash. I thought back to 2 years earlier, when my mother was sick, when the debts piled up so high, I couldn't even afford her a proper grave. That's when Steven Gerrard reached out. $500,000. Pretend to be me. Take care of someone for me. Now, back at the press conference, things had turned into a full-blown circus. A reporter swung the mic toward him. Mr. Steven, is what President Taylor said true? Was it not you who stood by her during her lowest days? But reporter James instead? He couldn't answer. His eyes darted toward Taylor Swift, pleading, Swift, you know me better than anyone. After all these years, how could I ever do something like that? She looked down at him from the stage, a small smile tugging at her lips. Don't be afraid. You said yourself the evidence is solid. Didn't you? The lawyers are already here. Everything today has been recorded, exactly as it happened. Her voice was soft, low, almost gentle, but Steven Gerrard's body trembled like he'd seen a monster. The press conference was over. I gathered my things and stepped off the stage. She followed silently, close behind. Outside, it was raining. I'll give you a ride. I hesitated for 3 seconds, then decided not to deny myself. Sliding into Taylor Swift's Rolls-Royce, I glanced sideways. There was a glimmer of secret joy in her eyes. It wasn't until I pulled out my phone that I realized the whole scene at the press conference had been live-streamed, already trending. Something inside me went cold, heavy. I killed the screen in a rush and turned to watch the raindrops snake down the window. Tiny rivers, just like 3 years ago. The city looked exactly the same, but between Taylor Swift and me, everything had turned upside down. Back then, the Taylor family had called in one of the most renowned specialists in the country. After the surgery, Taylor Swift could finally see the light again. Steven Gerrard, paranoid as ever, hired top-tier bodyguards to keep me under watch 24/7. The day Taylor Swift regained her sight, those same men escorted me straight to the hospital. I couldn't see her through the ward door, but I could hear her voice, laced with insecurity. Swift, I'm here, Steven Gerrard said softly. I was so worried about you. He'd altered his voice deliberately, so much so, it almost sounded exactly like mine. Taylor Swift didn't notice. She only sounded a little unhappy as she replied, You promised, the moment I could see again, you'd be the first person I laid eyes on. You broke your word. I didn't hear what came after that. A searing pain rose up from my chest, swallowing me whole. From the very start, in her eyes, the one who had walked beside her for those 2 years had always been Steven Gerrard. His bodyguards dragged me into a nearby lounge. Moments later, Steven Gerrard walked in, leather shoes clicking against the floor. A smudge of lipstick curved messily across his lips. Taylor Swift's. She really loves me, he said lazily. You've taken good care of her these past 2 years. But to her, all of that, it's me who did it. Someone of your lowly status will never, ever have anything to do with her. Where are you going? Home? Taylor Swift's voice yanked me back to the present. I lowered my head slightly. President Taylor, could you drop me off at the office? I've still got work to finish. But she didn't start the car. Instead, she leaned closer, And for the first time, I thought I saw something like hurt in her eyes. "Hey, must you call me that so formally?" She was close enough that her familiar scent, now mixed with the clean, rain-drenched air, wrapped around me like it always used to. In that moment, I realized I didn't want to hold back anymore. I pushed her away, meeting her gaze coldly. "Then what should I call you? Miss Eris? Or should I like 3 years ago? Call out, Stephen Gerrard, when I'm bleeding. Protecting you? Those 2 years are over. The one you were engaged to was always Stephen Gerrard. Your life is back on track. Why come bother me again?" But this isn't my track. Her eyes began to redden. "I never even met Stephen Gerrard before. From the start, the only person I've ever recognized was you." A tight, unbearable ache rose in my chest. I shut my eyes for a moment before speaking, my voice trembling despite myself. "You're still lying to me. Taylor Swift. The day you regained your sight, I was right outside your door, listening to you mistake Stephen Gerrard for me, listening to you hug him, kiss him. I didn't," she interrupted quietly. "The moment I opened my eyes, I knew he wasn't you." I froze. Her tone was calm, almost too calm. "The Taylor family is complicated. That day, there was more than one person in that room who would have been happy to see me dead. So the second I realized he wasn't you, I made my decision. Stephen Gerrard was the perfect decoy. Didn't he love pretending to be you? Fine, let him play the part to the bitter end." A flicker of a smile curved her lips, bright as a wind chime in a summer breeze. Images flashed in my mind. Old news reports I'd seen while studying abroad. Stephen Gerrard caught in a real explosion on set, barely escaping with his life. Stephen Gerrard and Taylor Swift almost crushed by a falling billboard during a trip. "I never meant to ignore you," she continued. "These past 3 years, so much has happened. After Grandpa passed, one by one, members of the Taylor family tried to kill me. But now, they're either rotting in prison, even in the depths of hell. Some of the monsters bore my own blood. One of them was my birth mother. Truth is, I've never really been afraid of dying. When my cousin was forced to give up all his shares, he snapped and stabbed me. And even then, the only thought in my head was how much I missed you." The parking garage was silent, shadows pooling in the corners. Under the dim headlights, she slipped off her coat, slowly undoing each button of her white shirt. Beneath it, right over her heart, was a scar. "The Taylor family's a mess," she murmured. "Not something you just take. After tonight, Stephen Gerrard, and everyone who propped him up, will be finished. The entire Taylor family, myself included, could be yours." She leaned closer. The eyes that had once been clouded and unfocused, now burned bright, like they held the last surviving stars in the universe. Her lowest years had been my most unstable, 2 years of drifting, of reckless emotions with nowhere to go. And in the end, all of it had tangled into something only we could understand. In the hush between heartbeats, Taylor Swift narrowed her eyes and let out a soft, content sigh. "I've missed you so much." She wrapped her arms around me, face buried in the curve of my neck, her palms searing against my waist. "They're so stupid," she whispered. "Someone that obedient, that docile, could never be you. No one can ever play your role." By the time the rain stopped and the night calmed, it was late. Taylor Swift drove us to a secluded villa. I pulled out my phone. The top trending headline flashed red with an urgent news alert. "Stephen Gerrard taken into custody for investigation. Last month," she said, "your half-brother contacted him, blackmailed him, threatened to expose his secret unless he stole the bid documents and other confidential files from you." Her gaze was steady. "I came back for one reason, to destroy the Stephen family. And to overturn the case from 20 years ago, when they ruined my mother's name. For that outcome, I'd pay any price." 20 years ago, the young Stephen heiress set a trap for my mother, because she wanted my father. They claimed my mother was working in the shadows, dirty and immoral, and Stephen Gerrard, barely old enough to know better, helped them. He helped outsiders push his own mother into the abyss. She was detained for 15 days. She lost her job. The neighbors whispered behind her back. After my parents divorced, she carried that shame to the countryside with me. Her spirit withered. Before she even turned 40, she was gone. On the day she died, the hospital TV was broadcasting news about the Stephen family. Perfect marriage, brilliant children, a model dynasty among the wealthy. What a joke. When she died, she weighed barely 70 pounds. The backs of her hands bruised with IV marks. She could have lived to 100. The Stephen family's business was never clean. They've destroyed so many lives. And yet they dared call themselves a model family. I pressed my palm to my eyes, forcing the tears back down. Don't be afraid, I told her. If you're using me, I'm more than happy about it. It means you still have me in your heart. And I told you, the entire Taylor family, myself included, is yours. News of Stephen Gerrard's arrest blazed across the internet for 3 straight days. The Stephen family tried to smother the story, but in the end, they came crawling to Taylor Swift. She sat behind her desk, listening to their plea. Her smile was razor sharp, touching words. But the decision isn't mine. It's my fiancé's. I gave them a polite smile. You'd better prepare yourselves. You'll be joining him soon. Taylor Swift called for a press conference. When asked to clarify her connection with Stephen Gerrard, she only smiled, half teasing, half mocking. Fiancé? I've never once admitted he was mine. The only fiancé I've ever spoken of is the one who stood by me when I was at my lowest. I rode that wave of online buzz and went live, speaking the truth of what happened 20 years ago. In front of millions, I laid everything bare. That one stream was the final spark that burned the Stephen family to ash. From the very beginning, their fortune was built on dirty hands. And now, in the era of strict investigations, they walked right into the firing line. Taylor Swift told me, it was never you holding them up. It was your oh-so-kind half-brother. Our cooperation was only business. I can cut ties anytime. You don't need to worry about me. At last, I felt relief. I turned over all the evidence I'd collected for years to the police, thanks to Taylor Swift's clean break from those people. After taking over the Taylor family, she was untouched, and the Stephen family, completely destroyed. That day, I carried flowers with Swift to visit my mother's grave. Her photo on the tombstone smiled softly, but there was always sorrow behind her gentleness. She had been too kind, too fragile, and could never escape the shadow of that past. On her deathbed, she held my hand and begged me not to blame Stephen Gerrard. Your brother isn't their real blood. Life in that house couldn't have been easy. But she never knew. For years, he'd survived by shaming and belittling me. I brushed my fingertips across her photo. Mom, no one will ever believe you were guilty again. I have a career now. And a girlfriend. At that, Taylor Swift whispered beside me. Fiancé, I corrected, twisting my hand unconsciously on my left ring finger. The silver band gleamed, a perfect match to hers. I straightened the bouquet, bowed deeply, and turned to see Swift watching me intently. James Bowling, she said softly. Wait for me outside. I want to talk to Auntie alone. The autumn night was cold. I sat in the car for a long while. Before she finally returned, she started the engine, silent for minutes. Then, in a low voice, tell her thank you for bringing you into this world. Otherwise, I would have died in the summer 5 years ago, when I hit rock bottom. That evening, she told me she had a surprise waiting. Come home tonight, no excuses. When I opened the door, the night sky glittered with stars. Inside, the room was thick with warmth and steam. She leaned against the headboard, eyes gleaming like a kitten's, sweet, clinging, unshakable. James Bowling, you've ignored me for so long. I stared at her until her ears burned red. My voice was hoarse from a day of running around. I'll shower first. Obedient as ever, she waited. By the time I came out, toweling my hair, she had set the scene. Only one soft lamp glowed at the bedside. Kiss me, she breathed. You're too tense. Every word, every glance, was temptation woven into air. By the time the storm outside faded, it was deep into the night. We lay together, her head resting against me. My voice cracked with exhaustion. But my promise was firm. Chase your dreams. I'll be the one to shield you. Always.